Welcome, ladies and gents, to another episode of Legacy Unlux. Today's guest has spent over 2 decades operating at the intersection of law, power and human behaviour. From her time within New South Wales Police as a senior prosecutor, including working alongside the Gang Squad and Strike Force Raptor, to advising on major incidents like counterterrorism and public disorder, she's built a career in environments where the stakes are high and the margin for error are quite small. She's also taken that experience globally, representing and training agencies across the Asia Pacific and stepping into anti-corruption at an executive level, giving her a rare perspective on how systems operate and how people behave within them. Now she brings that depth of experience into a more strategic and client-focused practice at her own law firm, Hughes Law. Belinda, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
That's okay. Now, the first thing I'd like to touch on is your time as a New South Wales Police senior prosecutor. In an environment like that, these aren't everyday legal environments. It's high pressure and high risk. And these situations carry decisions that have real consequences. So what did you realise very quickly about being a woman and a female in a room like that?
Great question. Look, it was a very, I think there was probably 3 women out of about 120 that worked when I was working with gangs. And Strike Force Raptor, so there wasn't many of us. But there was this amazing commander there, Deborah Wallace, and she was so amazing. She owned who she was, and she was the most authentic leader I've certainly worked under. And she was feminine. She wore high heels, she had her hair, she had her makeup, she wore matching coloured suits, absolutely incredible. And I think she really taught me it's okay to be a woman in that environment. You don't have to match the environment. You actually probably get a little bit more power being you and being different.
Be authentic, feel comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah, and not, really, really importantly, not pretending you know everything.
Yep.
And going, you know what, that's a great question. I'm going to find out and I'm going to come back to you and let you know. Yep. But not having to feel like you have to be one of the boys. I find they respect it more if you just own who you are and stay there. I mean, I wore my high heels into clubhouses because I'm like, I'm not wearing boots, I'm wearing my high heels. And so I think finding those little pieces that mean a lot to you and who you are and owning them and wearing them as a bit of a badge.
Yep. It's an ultimate power move, that's for sure. And it'll definitely get the boys to respect you a lot more. Yeah. And when you're dealing with crime, what changes in the way you think and operate as a lawyer?
Yeah, I think I really do credit my time with Strike Force Raptor and Gang Squad as a way of opening my mind and being really creative with the law. They really had an approach of why not? Can we try this? And I spent probably 3 years trialling pieces of legislation that have never been used before, historical 1940 pieces of legislation, making urgent orders in the Supreme Court to close down clubhouses. So I spent a lot of time being creative and they wanted an outcome and me trying to sort of find the outcome through the use of the law. And it really, really taught me there as a lawyer, people are coming to you with problems and it's about solving those problems for them, not being a handbrake, not telling them what they can't do, but trying to solve their problems.
Yep. Okay. And since you work closely with organised crime, what would that world actually look like beyond what people see on the outside too?
Oh, gosh. I've got to be careful because now I'm a defence lawyer. I can't say what first comes to mind, but what I would say is policing, they particularly in the organised crime, they deal with 2% of the population.
Yeah.
It really is. And there's a lot that's going on that, you know, every day people don't understand and aren't aware of, blissfully unaware of. But it's all about power. It really is. It's power, drugs, money.
Yeah. I'd imagine it's also very eye-opening towards, in a way, the darker sides of things that people are blissfully unaware of. It'd be a lot more emotion.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for the police that are sort of in the trenches dealing with that every day because I think you start to naturally become a little bit cynical about people and things when you don't have that perspective that you are only dealing with the parts of the community that are committing offences like that.
Yep, that makes sense. And when you were targeting these organised crime groups, how much of it was legal strategy versus actually understanding human behaviour as well?
Oh, it was an incredible intersection of that. It really was. There was some incredible police officers there that were all about particularly organised crime with the psyche of why are people joining these groups and what can we do to prevent and educate so that they don't join the groups. How can we disrupt it so it's uncomfortable for them? What types of things can we put in place and banning orders so that they don't want to be part of this? It becomes too difficult.
Yeah.
And then really combining that with, well, what does that look like? That looks like potentially disruption orders at court following convictions where they can't associate with their mates. That looks like place restriction orders so they can't go into particular places that they would like to. Really closing down and banning where they can hang out together. So it's a real combination. I think that's what made it so effective in those years.
And was there a moment that stayed with you, not just because of the law, but because of what it revealed about people, just from these experiences that you just spoke about?
Yeah, I really did in that time. I learn a lot, but I've really learned it's so important for police, even though they might be trialling new things and being creative, they need to stay in the line. Sometimes I think it's tempting for them to push past that line, and when they do that, they're losing their credibility. So there was a few instances of matters that I probably can't go into, but I certainly saw that, and the really, really effective police knew how to push up against that line, but never ever stepped over it.
Yes, okay. That totally makes sense, especially because I think you lose your credibility once you cross that line, and respect too.
Oh, yeah.
So being able to navigate and stick within it. And it's definitely something that you would obviously carry over later on in your career, seeing the impact that it would have had on other people.
I know your reputation's everything.
Yeah.
It just takes that one misstep and then you've potentially damaged 15 years or 20 years of really, really good work by just pushing a little bit too hard on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And now moving into your time into anti-corruption, you're no longer dealing with crime at the street level, but at the top. How different was that?
Oh, wow. So it was in Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
And I probably was a bit naive. I went over there thinking that they would really value my experience, whereas I probably didn't understand that there was a perception that I had taken a local's job. And so it was a huge cultural and community awareness for me. I had to learn a new language. I had to understand the culture, and I had a lot of barriers to get over, especially being a woman.
Yeah,
there is not many female leaders over there, and I was regularly mistaken as the receptionist or the secretary. So they call you Boss Mary in Papua New Guinea, and so the surprise, Boss Mary, the surprise. It was, it was a really interesting environment, but I loved it. But the corruption, I really do believe it's more so a lack of education and awareness more than deliberate corruption in the sense of what we probably see a bit here in Australia.
People not realising they're doing the wrong thing or crossing a line.
They really, and perhaps that's me being naive, but that was my impression. I went out to a very remote regional part of Papua New Guinea called Kerema, and I had to present to the government there and explain to them about why if you're in a public role you can't accept gifts and rewards and how that can be perceived. Now, in their culture, it's very important, gift giving. It's a way of showing thank you. And there's also a very, very strong, if I do something for you, you do something for me. And that's just the culture. So for them to not understand that they can't accept gifts from family or friends if they make a good decision for them, they described it was a shock. And so I see that as perhaps we, in our lens, see that as corruption. For them, it's also a huge cultural issue.
Yep. And then it's about providing that education to them. Okay. So they're a lot more open to receiving that feedback on how they can, I guess, portray themselves in a more appropriate manner at that level, and how to navigate the intricacies of having power and navigating that with some delicacy.
Yeah, I think parts were. I think other parts is a very thick web, and it's going to take a long time to untangle.
Yep. Just part of humanity.
Yeah.
But what did that also teach you about human nature at the highest levels, aside from what you just talked about too?
Yeah, very difficult to change habits.
Yep.
So if they've been doing it for a long time and it's been working for them, until there's a stronger reason, and it has to be a significantly stronger reason for them to change their behaviour, it's not going to happen.
Yep, which makes sense. I think once people get in the habit of doing something for years and years, it's very hard to untangle that later on. And if they do want to put in that effort, it will be a very difficult journey of commitment trying to do that.
Oh yes, and they need reinforcement almost immediately that changed behaviour is the right path.
Yep. Yeah. Now, you've got a lot of experience with the justice system. What is one thing you think the justice system gets wrong at times?
It's so interesting because, as you know, I've done both sides. I prosecuted for 18 years, and the way I sort of see the world now is I've got to defend for 18 years and then I'll provide balance. But I guess as a prosecutor, I thought defendants and defence had it easy, whereas now I see it is really difficult as a defendant in the justice system as it is. Courts are incredibly busy. The courts tend to give the prosecution, being the police, a lot of opportunity because they are incredibly busy, understaffed, under-resourced. But what that means is things like brief orders, which are, the defendant's right to see the evidence against them, just aren't complied with. Things are just not done, and out of fairness, they really should be done. Cases aren't being considered until the day of the hearing, and then they might be withdrawn. But meantime, the defendant's paid a lot of money to have legal representation, consider their material. So I see it very difficult at the moment in the volume of work, particularly in the local courts.
Yeah, I would imagine the amount of volume that comes through would at some point would make it a little bit difficult for defendants, like you said.
And the magistrates, to have 12 defended hearings in a court sitting time of realistically like 4 to 5 hours, how the pressure for them to get through the work at the same time, but also to consider the evidence on both sides, and everyone's under pressure to sort of do it quickly. But, arguments that probably could be had aren't ventilated because you want that efficiency in the local court.
Well, now that you've seen the duality of being in prosecution and now in defence, how has that helped shape how you operate now in a way, and how you see truth too? Because you began on the other side as a prosecutor, and there's only one way as a prosecutor, which is to make your point and your matter to go across, and then now into defence, you're on the other side of it.
Yeah, look, I have always enjoyed technical arguments. So I enjoyed it as a prosecutor, and I particularly enjoy it as defence. But I guess what I find now is I look at matters as if I was a prosecutor and go, okay, how would I run this? And then how can I disrupt that as a defence? And I acutely know how busy those prosecutors are, and you don't particularly necessarily want to run matters if you can negotiate it. So there's always opportunity, I think, to negotiate with the prosecution, which is really good. But I do find I try and be really direct. I don't tell fibs. I don't mislead, and I don't use bully tactics. And I find having a strong reputation as a defence lawyer means that you can potentially get some really strong outcomes for your client.
And you would be at an advantage as well because you can kind of expect the strategy of a prosecutor, the way they think, and in a way you can then use that to either make it more efficient in terms of negotiating and reaching a settlement right away, or at least being able to be 2 steps ahead and help your client get the return they want.
Oh, I remember all the things that were never present when I was prosecuting, and I'm like, come on, where's your chain of custody statement? Where's your CCTV statement? No, we need that witness at court. And so when I look at it, I go, they haven't done that, they haven't done that, they haven't done that. And so I make sure I let the prosecutor know, and always sort of try and give them the opportunity to withdraw the matter, which I've had great success with. But, you know, you want to do it nicely without ego and without being rude about it. A lot of the police are trying to do their best.
And that definitely is correct. And it also speaks to your success as a lawyer and as a leader. So I want to dive into that as well, your leadership. So you were leading thousands of prosecutions annually. What did that level of volume do to your decision-making over time?
Yeah, so I couldn't possibly make a decision about each of those files. So it's a matter of prioritising. So the more serious offences would come onto my desk and I would make a decision. And then the more high volume, lower stakes cases, I would delegate to my managers. And then we would have a strong guideline on what should be running and what shouldn't be running. And then any type of representation. So if defence were writing in saying withdraw the case, then I'd consider that.
And when you delegated to your managers, how do you build that trust between you and them to ensure that the clients are always coming first and that nothing is deprioritised due to the amount of volume coming in?
I think you got to show that you're really open. That you don't know everything. I've always prided myself as a leader of having people way smarter than me around me. Some really, and sort of balancing that management set. So you've got some really technical lawyers, you've also got some really good people leaders. You knowing your areas of strengths and weaknesses, so I can be very task focused. And so I've had to work really hard in the last few years on making sure that I've got that people side as well. And rather than just getting straight into my office and smashing out the work, I do sort of walk the floor and make sure I say hello to everyone and, you know, try and remember everybody's kids, and it just doesn't come as naturally to me as it does others. So it's something I've always had to work on.
But that's a really good value to have, the idea that you know that there's always room for growth and that you're continually working on that and that you're self-aware, which I think a lot of human beings in general struggle with, being self-aware of what our flaws are, or I guess areas of improvements could be. And I think building a good connection with the rest of your team, just what makes this like a good team even stronger. That's for sure. Now, what do you think separates a good leader from someone people trust in a crisis, especially when it comes to clients, when they come to a lawyer? You know, you could be bombarded with hundreds of lawyers you can go to. How do you know who you can go to in a time of a crisis, and how you can feel that trust to be able to open up to them about whatever they've got going on?
I think a client needs to have confidence that the lawyer that they are engaging with, instructing, briefing, is going to do everything in their power to get them the best possible outcome. It's something I say to my clients. I go, I can't guarantee an outcome. Nobody can. It's litigation. It's always uncertain. But no, I'm in your corner and I'm going to box really, really hard for you and not leave any stone unturned. And I'm going to try and get you the best possible outcome I possibly can.
Yeah, and I think that's the best you can do as a lawyer, to be there for your client and put your best foot forward and, in a way, I guess, be invested in them, and then you'll get the best outcome you can be.
Yeah.
And in that way, they'll feel that human connection too, that you want to do the best you can. So they'll, I guess, trust in you to take the matter into your own hands and deal for them.
Yeah, I think so. And I probably do something a little bit controversial. In all my clients have my mobile number. They can call me anytime and I don't charge them.
Okay.
So I just go, if you're concerned about something, I don't want you worrying about 15-minute or 6-minute interval clocks and not calling me. I just prefer you call me and ask. So whether that makes me a terrible business person though, I'm not sure, but it's I like to have that approach with my clients.
And break that barrier with them.
Yeah, and I find the biggest pieces of gold I get for my submissions on sentence or whatever I'm doing is those conversations I have with a client outside of court and just having a chat. And they'll be really open and they'll tell me some things and I go, are you okay if I use that? And so I can go into court and say to a magistrate very, very honestly, my client is sitting here and he is mortified. He is here. He's embarrassed. He cannot believe he's let his children down. And these are words from his mouth only 30 minutes ago. And it just personalises the submissions. I'm not standing there reading out, he's 23 years old and he's never been in trouble type thing. It's a real submission that's come from him. And sometimes I think that makes the biggest difference.
Definitely. I agree too. I think when you prioritise your client over prioritising the monetary value, they'll actually want to come back to you if they need later on, or they'll refer you on to other people too because of that level of trust that they have with you and they feel heard and seen, especially in a world where a lawyer can have 10 matters in front of them a day that they need to go through, and the fear of your matter just being dissolved in the midst of the rest of the volume and not being heard. So I think that personal connection that you build with them definitely will make you succeed as a leader and also as a business individual because people come back for that connection. With how we've reached a point where it's a very superficial world that we live in and we don't value connection as much anymore. This is something that's very important and something that one of the values leaders should definitely look down at and look at how they can actually learn from it and spend more time with people and be more present in the moment too. Because I think as a leader, you can stress about how many things you have going on. So when you're sitting down with someone, you're not really present in that meeting because your mind's running at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Yeah. And I mean, it's such a privilege to be trusted with somebody's matter. Like I've got a client that's facing a murder charge and I go, out of all the lawyers, you've trusted me. And you can't get much higher stakes than this. And I just think if you approach it from that perspective of just being forever grateful that they trust you and rather than focusing on sort of the business side.
Yes. Yeah.
Who knows though? I'm going off instinct.
No, I think it's working for you great. Honestly, a successful leader is one that can overlook the numbers whether it's targets or money value that they need to meet and rather focus on the results that they can get for the people around them, the organisations they work in, their clients, because that's what people want to be around. They want to, again, have that connection, feel like people are working hard for them. You believe them, especially as a defence lawyer. A client wants to feel like, they're treated, that their story is heard and they're being treated as best as they can. And from what you're saying right now, I think you're doing great. Yeah.
Thank you.
If they can give you a call at 9 p.m, which I hope you're not getting a lot of that so you can get some beauty sleep, but I'm sure they're in very safe hands.
Yeah. No, thank you.
That's okay. Now, you've trained and represented agencies across the Asia Pacific and globally. What differences did you notice in how justice is approached? And did you see patterns in human behaviour that transcended culture?
Yeah, it's interesting. So when Singapore and Hong Kong prosecutors, I did a opening which I have done also with regulators in Australia, and I gave them sort of a Gen Z.
Yes, Gen Z.
So I had my daughters tell me all sort of the words that are being used. Yeah, I got
a Gen Z slang.
Yeah,
yes.
and so I got everyone to stand up and that's sort of how I did the intro. But when I was in Singapore and Hong Kong, I also did like a bit of a Australian, the Savo, going to the servo and picked up an avo. And it was really interesting because I said, well, if we can't understand as prosecutors how the new generations are speaking and the new applications and what was consistent across everybody in the room, Singapore, Hong Kong and Australia, is that the majority of the regulators and prosecutors, I would say there was probably one person in the room that knew how to use all the modern apps. And nobody knew the language. And they are majority sort of 30 plus, the people in the room. But we all struggle with it. And I think that's important because I've been burnt as a prosecutor trying to cross-examine a witness about Snapchat. And and I said, you know, the Snapchat photo was important evidence. And I said, you zoomed on the photo, didn't you? And she goes, you can't zoom on Snapchat. And I'm like, oh. So
that would have made it really hard.
It was it's something that we all need to be doing, I think, and get better with.
That's actually something I wouldn't have even picked up on. I mean, I haven't used Snapchat in years. But yeah, I can see how difficult that can be because it's not something you would think about a lawyer would need to be aware of or that you'd need to be across the new apps.
Oh, and you do, especially understanding there's so many, I guess, bullying that's occurring across the social media platforms, and understanding how to both prosecute and defend those charges. You need an understanding of how they work. You really do.
Yeah. So you see a lot of bullying across these. I mean, I think everyone's quite aware that there is quite a bit of bullying online, but I would assume that it's definitely quite difficult to be able to charge that in court and take it through to the very end, like cross-examine people about that.
Yeah, it's difficult, I think, to prove who did it just because it's on that person's platform or it's been posted by their account. You still need to establish that they're the ones that did it. So identification is something I target as a defence and would be a concern for me as a prosecutor.
And that's why then you need to be, it makes sense why you need to be across the apps and TikTok and Snapchat and all of those new applications they always come out with every year. Okay, going back to your international experience, how do you adapt your approach when you're working across completely different legal systems?
It was strange for me because I really sort of naturally go, we can't do that, and then go, okay, now I've got to go, you know, I know the New South Wales and a little bit about the other states as well. But the good thing was, particularly Papua New Guinea had correspondence with Queensland. So the principles are the same: fairness, natural justice, and what that involves is largely the same, giving people the opportunity to be heard before you make an adverse finding against them. So the underlying principles are very similar or the same, and then it's just working out the admissibility and going back and reading the cases and understanding how those particular principles have been applied. But yeah, it was a lot of reading, a lot.
So the principles pretty much are very similar, but is the actual law different in terms of legislation and things like that? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so different evidence provisions. In some cases, particularly Hong Kong, they have a very, very strong anti-corruption legal framework. And so the things that they can do versus what Papua New Guinea can do versus what Australia can do is so different. And understanding the way that they use their powers as well. So we might even have a similar provision, but the way they use it is very different to the way that we've been using it. Which is why it's you can learn so much from other international places, but also other states as well. Yeah,
I was going to say you must have learned quite a lot, which would have been great for your career and even for yourself on a personal level to be able to see how law is across different countries and even different states.
Oh, yeah.
So that must have been a great experience.
Yeah, it really was, really was. It
challenging, but great. The amount of learning you would have had to do too.
I'm just you know what I'm learning now is I've just got to embrace the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It means I'm learning. It means I'm pushing myself.
In the outside the comfort zone. That's where everyone grows. I mean, it's hard for a lot of people to step out of it, but the growth you get out of it is phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
And that would have been the same with you, with your law career, being able to have that experience and that exposure across different cultures and different countries and how they approach law, what their legislation looks like, and how, although we have the same principles in terms of, you know, targeting crime and anti-corruption and things like that, the way we approach things could be vastly different.
Oh, yeah, like, and you constantly, fighting with yourself because you have such an imposter syndrome. And I remember the first time a client wanted me to go to the Supreme Court, and I'm like, the Supreme Court, oh my gosh, I've not been at the Supreme Court where I've had to speak. And so I'm like, dial a friend, okay, what do I do? What do I do? How does this look? And I'm like, I feel like an imposter. And he was so lovely. He's like, we all feel like that the first time we do things. Do not worry. Like, it's just completely normal. This is what you do and this is how you do it. And just gave me that peace of mind. But I think that's important. That's given me a lot of confidence if I know that there's others out there that feel like that.
The same way.
Yeah.
How do you battle that imposter syndrome?
Oh, goodness me.
Yeah.
It is preparation.
Yeah.
I find as long as I'm prepared, I can pretty much write out anything. And knowing that it's actually okay to say, I'm not sure. I can, if the matter could be stood down, and I will go and look at that, and being really honest about it. But a lot of the time it's just holding on.
Yeah. I would imagine, do you have to think on your feet a lot?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Okay.
And I know I can do that. And I know I can do it well. So I sort of go, as long as I'm prepared as I possibly can be. So I really am passionate about the law. So for me, you know, after dinner, I'll just read a brief just because that's my light reading.
Yeah.
Or I'll think about a legal argument, or I'll read a case, and it's just what I enjoy doing. But I find if I may not be the smartest person in that room, largely I'm probably not, but I know I'll be the hardest worker. And so if I prepare, and then that sort of helps me get out of that imposter syndrome feeling.
Having that vast knowledge. I think you grow it as much as you read from what you say. Being able to be confident in front of the magistrates, like you said, especially in the Supreme Court, I can't imagine what that would look like.
Oh, that was
It's not like the movies, is it?
Oh, no. And you know what is funny is it's probably more relaxed. Like it's more formal, but the judges are really nice and friendly, whereas sometimes in the local court you walk in and the judges can be, you know, they've got a much higher workload and high expectations, so they might not be as happy to see you as the Supreme Court judges.
That's another battle that you have to face, isn't it? Well, as long as you have the knowledge and you're prepared, hopefully that makes it easy to go through the matter with the local courts then.
Yes, yeah.
It's a one less thing they have to worry about once they tick it off the list. Yeah. So if you can go through it quick, they're usually happy with that.
Yeah, they are. And I think if you're sensible.
Yeah, okay.
You don't waste the court's time.
You don't want to waste their time, yeah.
They have worked out in about 30 seconds whether you're wasting their time or whether you're making sensible applications.
Yeah.
And reputation's everything, and, managing clients' expectations so they don't think they're getting a fine when they're going to jail, and you just explain to them sort of where it'll be sitting. But yeah, most of the judges are pretty good.
And you know them from being in the courts quite a bit. So you know how to tackle each judge in terms of knowing whether this judge prefers efficiency where you present to them the matter right away, or if someone prefers some lighter talking in a way.
Yeah, and they're also different. And, some feel particularly strong about, for example, animal cruelty. Others feel really strongly about traffic matters, and so it's always you can manage a client's expectations and give them an idea of where you think the outcome would be, but until you walk into court and you see who's sitting on the bench and You see who the prosecutor is. That always makes a huge difference as well. And how, I guess, the evidence unfolds, you really don't know.
Yep. And that's why I got to think on your feet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because they will ask you questions and they will expect you to know.
Yep.
And you should know. You're being paid
Yep.
a
To
good
be
amount of money
prepared.
to go in there and be prepared and know your client's case.
Yeah, of course. Now, what values do you carry that help you keep you grounded from the intensity of the work that you do? Just on a personal level that grounds you in a way and keeps you calm in a sea of a lot of emotion.
Yeah, that's value-wise for me is fairness. So that's like with everything, professional and personal. But my family, I think my girls keep me very grounded.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah, I've got three. So they're 18, 13 and 12.
Well, you don't look like you would have an 18-year-old.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, they keep me very grounded and I just really do try and have some time where you can switch off. Like I love going out for dinner. That's my thing. I love going out as a family, trying new food and sort of, having a few glasses of wine and chats as a family and that's that for me.
Be your safe space, your support system.
Yeah.
That's really cute.
Yeah.
And in a way, you'll be a really good role model for them as well. When you spend that time with them, they'll look up to you and one day maybe one of them will want to be a lawyer too.
Oh, well, my eldest is first year law and so she works for me as a paralegal. But, I thought that. I did think that. I grew up seeing my dad work, 7 days a week, sun up, sun down. But my eldest, Cynthia, just said to me the other day, I just need to find a job where I'm not working as hard as you. You just work all the time. She's only 18, so maybe that'll change.
That might be it.
Yeah.
She's only 18, so she can't fully wrap her head around the passion that comes along with it. Once she's fully invested, I'm sure she'll want to continue in your footsteps.
Yeah.
And the law, I think, is a very interesting career to be in because you're constantly learning and you're exposed to so many different experiences that it keeps you invested, and you're invested in the people.
Yeah. It is such a privilege to be passionate about your work.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think it's the people side of the defence that I'm really enjoying. As prosecuting, it was a file. You didn't necessarily engage or develop those relationships with witnesses, whereas, yes, more pressure as a defence because now you know them and, a lot of them I'd catch up with personally just because they're amazing people.
Yeah.
And I would just really want to achieve that good outcome for them, not only because they're my client, but they're a really awesome person.
Yep, you've connected with them like you mentioned earlier. So what has your career taught you about yourself through all of that?
That I probably take on too much. But I tend to say yes to most things and give it a go, even if I'm uncomfortable. And I think those opportunities where there's been higher risk, like going to Papua New Guinea, like leaving the New South Wales Police, a job I loved, to take on another role with transport. The decisions that were higher risk, they were an opportunity and I said yes. And I think that's probably why I've been able to have such a diverse career.
Yeah. I was going to say switching through these organisations would have been a journey on its own. A little bit daunting, because it's a different environment and even going to Papua New Guinea and going overseas, that would have been different culture, different country, just being able to acclimate to that too.
Yes, and I took my two youngest girls over with me and so they could experience and see how another country and culture and which was incredible.
Yeah. Be a great learning experience for them. I think going to another country and just witnessing differences and acclimating to it really opens up someone's eyes because it's very easy to be stuck in your own little bubble and where you grew up. Even if people don't step out of their suburbs, it gets like that too, where you just the same people, same environment. So there is a lot more growth out there when you step out of that bubble.
And seeing these kids so happy and they, don't have shoes and they may not be able to speak English, and the education depends on whether the teacher's coming in, and these kids had never played Duck Duck Goose before, and so my girls were teaching them how to play Duck Duck Goose, and then all the kids were teaching the girls their games, and so we stayed overnight in this village, and it was amazing to watch. And they'd never had white kids, as they called them, white Piccaninny, staying at their village or visiting their village. So it was really incredible, and something I hope that will stay with the girls.
Yep, definitely. Now, after such a high-level career in public service, what made you step into building your own firm?
After Papua New Guinea being so challenging, I made the decision to come back. My eldest was in year 12 at the time, and I think she's struggling a little bit with me being overseas. So I made the decision to come back, and I had a look at the roles, and so I was an executive director over there, so I was looking at executive director roles here, and got it through a few interviews and went, is this what I'm going to be passionate about doing? And I didn't feel it, so I withdrew, and then I went, well, what else is there? And I thought maybe I could do this on my own and go out and do private practice. And it is probably the scariest decision. Like, I had my kids prepared to eat Vegemite and toast. That was it. Like, this could go all bust. And going from a role where you're on a high salary and good package to starting your own business, is this the right thing to do? And I had incredible supportive friends and a professional network that said, just give it a go.
Yeah. Is it the worry of not being able to lead it, or is it the worry of not being good enough? What do you think is the most scary piece?
I knew I could do it. I knew I could do it, and I knew I'd be good. And I don't say that in an arrogant way. I just know that I would work so hard that there's no other choice.
Being confident in your skills also, and the knowledge that you come with, which is extensive.
So I knew I could do it. It was more so the business side of, well, how do I get clients? Yeah. And then will I earn enough, or can I even afford to pay myself? And how do I advertise, and where do I start? So it was definitely the insecurity about, I know I could do it, but how do I connect and meet clients? And
What do you think is the best piece of advice you'd give to someone feeling that insecurity? How do you think you battle that the best way?
Oh gosh, you've just got to do it anyway.
Yeah.
You really do. And it is probably the hardest decision I've made so far in my career. And I've had some feedback. People have said to me that they felt like it was a step down for me. And are surprised that I'm not going into more of a different type of executive role. But what I've worked out is I don't particularly enjoy the executive environment. I really enjoy the law. And so I feel like
the passion's enough to make you push through.
It really is.
And I do think that when you're setting up a business, that takes time. So although you may have received the feedback that it's a step down, in the long run, it probably won't be. It'll probably be a step up, actually, being able to make your own decisions and just do whatever you want with the firm, with the vision of the firm and the values and the personal brand that you will push through the firm too, because at the end of the day, it's your brand.
Yeah.
And I think if you put the time into it, which it's already been a while, you'll see the results come through at some point, which they already have from how under the pump you are already.
Well, you know what? It's nice. And look, I don't agree with that feedback that it was a step down. I feel like building your own business and risking that is such an incredible achievement for anybody that's out there doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, being your own boss, okay, you're working really hard, you're working long hours, But if I want to take the athletics carnival off to go watch the kids and answer a few emails, I can do that.
Yep.
I don't have to ask permission. I can just, and if I want to go away, I can just go away.
Yeah, you can just do it.
And so there's a whole level of freedom there.
And I think your experience speaks for itself too. Just from how we spoke about it today briefly, you come with extensive experience that a lot of lawyers probably don't, because traditionally lawyers stick to their own path, whether it's they start in prosecution or defence. And it's typically the same industry as well. You've been exposed to a wide variety of matters and different things, like how you were in gang squad with New South Wales Police and the strike force, later on going overseas and dealing with anti-corruption, and then even with traffic and things like that. That's a very wide variety that I don't think a lot of lawyers would have that exposure to. And that on its own just speaks to the value you can provide to clients, and you can have that flexibility as your own business and as your own boss, pretty much.
Yeah. It's incredible having my kids and being able to sort of navigate my calendar like that. There's lots of sacrifices, like everyone that works hard, like yourself.
Yeah, of course.
But you have to do that, I think. You have to do those extra hours. Yep. You have to do that extra time. If you do want to get ahead. Yeah,
the sacrifice pays off in the long run. It's what makes most successful people succeed. It's the extra hours, the commitment, the staying up late. It's what pays off in the long run. Even just sitting down and reading something quickly after dinner pays off, because you're building up that knowledge, because education is also key, and it gives you that advantage over other people that are just doing the bare minimum.
Yes. And I dare say it'd be those people that would look at you and say you're incredibly lucky. Whereas I think most people that are in those types of positions may have had some luck in they've been given an opportunity, but it's
how you make the most of it, the work, and again, just the most that you can make out of the opportunities you're given too. Because I have heard that saying before, where someone says, "Oh, you're just really lucky." No, I'm not lucky. I just have worked hard for it. You just think it happened overnight, because that's how you've perceived it and how it looks on the outside. But in reality, there's a lot of hours that go into it, a lot of studying, a lot of even going out there and meeting people, building up that professional network that you spoke of. And that's what people see as an overnight success.
And putting yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. That's where all the growth has come, not being stuck in the comfortable space that you're always in and in your safe space, but actually stepping out of it. And I've learned that you grow a lot outside of it, like being able to challenge yourself and look at yourself and say, where can I grow? Where are my areas of improvement? And being able to target that and just try to build that up really pays off too, because then there is always room for growth and you keep growing. And then that also reflects on your professional career.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. 100%. It's like, if I could give anyone advice, it'd be take the opportunity. Even if you don't think you can do it, do it anyway.
Yeah. And it's not just luck.
No.
It's hard work, a lot of hard hours and work that goes into it.
Yeah. 100%.
No, but thank you for taking us through that. That was such a lovely conversation.
No, thank you for having me.
No, it was great. Thank you. All right.